Eagle, proud symbol of our country, keep on flying high up above, and together we will stand and we'll restore the land. Oh, eagle, keep on flying, eagle.
Welcome in. Listen to the Eagle, your live call-in radio show on hunting, fishing, God, family, and country, and anything Paul Ott wants to talk about. I am Bert Ott Carruth, the host, right here in the Reed's Metal Studio at the beautiful Farm Bureau building, right in the capital city of Jackson, Mississippi. Alongside Paul Ott, who is on the phone down at beautiful Lake Dixie Springs, right slap in the middle of scenic Rivers region. How about you, Paul Ott?
Well, Bert, you know what?
What?
If God didn't make little green apples and it don't snow in Minneapolis in the wintertime, well, then, Bert, there ain't no deer in the wood and there ain't no ticks on.
You're so crazy, Paul Ott. You know, you talk about ticks right there. You made that statement. You and I talked, and we want to revisit something tonight because we had so many requests and actual emails about Lyme disease, Paul Ott. We ran a show about a month, maybe 6 weeks ago, and really we dove into the Lyme disease and tried to educate you a little bit and share with you a story of Buddy Money. We're going to revisit that tonight with Buddy Money again. Then we're also going to follow it up with a guest who is right here in the state of Mississippi that over the last year and a half has been battling Lyme disease as well. And it's Ashley Havens, and she is going to share her story. And we're doing all this because it is right here at deer season. We're all about to hit the woods. It's been extremely warm and not cool, and the ticks will still be out. And we just want you to have an education and also start maybe Googling and understanding this disease because it's very, very serious if you don't catch it early.
Well, it is, Bert. And if you get a tick and you see that bullseye, like Buddy Money says, you better go to the doctor quick. Hey.
That's right. That's right. And I just invite each of you to stay on tonight because we're about to go to Buddy Money and talk with him for the next two segments. And then around 6:20, right around the 6:20 to 6:30, we're going to have Ashley Havens come on and share her story, and we'll do questions where you can call in. So if you want to be a part of the show, 1-800-251-5891. That's 1-800-251-5891 or pound 444 if you're C-Spire, customer inspired like we are. So let's go to Buddy Money. Buddy Money, welcome to Listen to the Eagle.
Bert, it is a thrill being in this chair. I sat in a chair similar to this, I guess 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I hate the circumstances by which I'm sitting here tonight. However, it is certainly, I hope the next 55 minutes are going to be a lot of fun, educational, and at the same time, if I'm entertaining, Bert, I mean,
Buddy,
I'm throwing it out there.
You can't help but be entertaining. I've known you for too long.
I'm glad you're saying that because I have certainly withdrawn to another part of this world in the past several years.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm here. So
well,
let's take the next 55 minutes. Let's go back in time.
Yeah.
And let's just play and have fun.
Well, look, I love that you're here on several reasons. Number one, because I hadn't seen you in a while, and I love you, and I've missed you. Second, I dare say that I would think 80 to 90% of our listeners are just like me when it comes to Lyme disease, okay? I know it exists, and I know that it comes from a tick. But up until you shared your story with me a couple of months ago, I don't know that I've ever personally known anybody with Lyme disease, or I probably did and was not aware of it. Now, what I would like to do is for our listeners, if you don't mind, take us through and share your story, because here's what I'm learning. After talking to you and wanting to do this show and to educate our listeners and the people across the state, this is something that is devastating if it's not detected. But if it is detected, it can be treated in about 3 to 4 weeks and you're fine. But if it's not, it can really turn your life upside down, a.k.a. I'm looking at someone that has done that too.
I'm upside down. You can't tell. I'm on my head every day.
Yeah, it's not funny, but share with us. So you go float the river and?
Bert, 2012, Memorial Day weekend. I'm with two wonderful people,
Yeah.
and we're floating. I guess we would call it Shades Creek.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that day and that week leading up, there wasn't a lot of water. So canoeing, when you don't have
did
a lot
some
of
walking.
water, I did a lot of walking.
Yeah.
And I was with two people that had never really canoed before.
Yeah.
Wonderful people, but
It wasn't quite like canoeing the Bogachita like we used to do.
no, sir. We were pulling canoes. We were
Yeah.
not we were not floating canoes.
Okay.
By the time we got out of the water, I was infested with ticks.
Okay.
And I can't tell you how many times in my life I've had ticks
Yeah.
on me. It didn't
I've
mean
had 'em.
anything
I
to
grew
me.
up in Southwest Mississippi with ticks everywhere.
I mean, right now I'm itching. I feel like I've
Yeah.
got one on me just talking about
Right.
it. But, so I get out and take them off and
Yeah.
get in the shower that evening and wake up the next morning and I have a tick on me.
yeah.
And I have known that if you have a tick implanted deeply, has bitten you, and, like we hear the old saying, full of the tick behind a hound dog's ear.
Right.
That's how it was on my rear end. So I'm
Okay.
just going to put it out there. It was full. It was big.
Misconception. Let me interrupt. I always heard you don't need to be concerned about ticks, and the only way you're in trouble is if they get in your hair. Misconception?
Wrong.
Eh.
Yeah, I mean, it's big time wrong.
Okay.
Tick was planted in me, and quite frankly, it wasn't full. It was deep within me.
Okay.
And I had a bullseye tattoo, for lack of a better term,
Because of this bite.
because of this bite. Just imagine a small bullseye, let's say 2 or 3 inches in diameter, and the very center of it is another dark area with the tick embedded. And I made a big mistake, and this is what I told you just a moment ago. I knew better. I knew better than to pull this tick out, because
Should have gone to the doctor.
should have gone to the doctor, or find the type of attention where you should have gone to the doctor.
Okay.
I'm going to
That's
say
it.
it for the record.
Yeah,
go to the doctor. Bottom line, have this tick removed. I did not. Pulled it out.
Time marches on.
Time marches on. Let's say a month and a half later, I'm bedridden.
But at the time, for the next couple of weeks, you don't think about it.
No, well, I couldn't think, Bert. But the symptoms, I'd love to sit here and go through the symptoms.
Yeah,
but
let's
there's
talk about
pages,
them.
But there's pages.
But
of them.
let's just talk about some that people need to be aware of.
Rash,
Okay.
that bullseye, headaches, flu-like symptoms. If you know you've been in the outdoors,
And you start.
let's first do the basic things. Off makes tick repellent.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's do today, when you know that little ninja's out there. Take some common sense steps to protect
Keep him
yourself. And
away.
we're not talking about just hunters and fishers, gardeners,
Yeah.
anybody
Boaters
that's out,
on the
boaters,
lake.
outdoorsmen. I mean, just anybody that finds themselves outdoors. Protect yourselves. Protect your kids. Mothers, if you know you love your children, protect your children, because this also impacts children just like it would adults.
Oh, yeah. Y'all don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more of Listen to the Eagle.
Paul Ott's The Day of the Lord CD/DVD combo set is our free gift to you and your family. The Day of the Lord includes songs like I Am That I Am, Don't Cry for Me, and They Could Not Stop His Love, as well as special sermons by Tom Lester, Dr. Larry LeBlanc, and others. Paul's special holy visits and the printed Don't Cry for Me poster are also included. Get yours by calling 1-800-684-9486 or by letter to New Day of the Lord Ministries Foundation, Box 219, Summit, Mississippi 39666.
Welcome back in to Listen to the Eagle, your live call-in radio show, hunting, fishing, God, family, and country, and anything Paul Ott wants to talk about. Thank you for making us a part of your day. Bert Ott Carruth, your host, coming to you live from the Reed's Metal Studio. Invite you to go to reedsmetal.com for all your metal needs, whether it's metal roofing, metal building out on the farm or at the deer camp. They can hook you up. Alongside Paul Ott, down in the beautiful Scenic Rivers region. Paul Ott, we want to welcome Miss Ashley Havens in. And Ashley, I want to go straight to you so you've got some time here. You know, our previous guest, Buddy Money, got Lyme disease. He remembers he was floating a river in the state of Alabama and has tracked it back to that. If you don't mind, share your story, please.
Sure. I don't really know when I got the disease. I wasn't one of the cases that got the bullseye rash. So basically I started having arthritis in my right ankle, which I played many sports, so I just thought maybe it was an injury to that, you know, soak it in some Epsom salt and be good. Well, a few weeks later, it moved into my knee. And I drive for a living, so I was like, man, I'm just getting old. It really sucks. I mean, I'm 28, so I was like, 30 is going to be something else.
Wow.
Well, then it traveled into my hip, and I was like, okay, I need to get this checked out. Well, my dad is a physician, and the day I went by his clinic, he was actually out of town. And so I spoke to the nurse practitioners, and they gave me some information, and they were trying to say it was plantar fasciitis, and if I didn't think that's what it was, to come back. Well, I went to a different doctor in Hernando, Mississippi, and luckily, very, very luckily, he wanted to test me. He wanted to do a tick panel on me, and I was like, sure, because he asked me, he said, do you know of any ticks? And I just laughed because I'm from Mississippi and I hunt and fish, so
Yeah.
I was like, of course, And he put me on doxycycline, told me to start taking that. I actually worked at the hospital at the time, and I went to the clinic to get my blood work drawn because I'm a hard stick, so I have a particular nurse at my dad's clinic that can stick me. So I got them to do the test. They ran it about a week later, came back positive. They were trying to tell me that I was having an allergic reaction to the doxycycline.
Mm-hmm.
What I know now is that was not the case. I was actually having a herpes, which is basically a die-off effect of the bacteria. Well, I had been doing marketing for a mental health hospital, and so I was really aware about certain things, and I started having these symptoms, and it was really starting to scare me. For instance, like my whole body felt like it was shaking. It was not shaking. It was just the nerves. And I kept telling my dad, I was like, I'm waking up and I'm so anxious, but I had no reason to be anxious about it. He's like, oh, you just need to get back on your antidepressant. You just changed jobs. You just did this. I said, no, this is something more. It's deeper.
Yeah.
And he didn't listen, but luckily I had a friend. I can look back now and see where God had his hand on me the whole time.
Okay.
Because he put these people in my life, and I got in touch with a Lyme literate nurse practitioner. She was able to let me know that all my symptoms that I was having were chronic Lyme. And at this point, I mean, my body was shutting down on me. Like, I depersonalized. I could not recognize myself in the mirror. I felt like I was looking out of someone else's eyeballs. I could hardly walk, talk, read, and write. I had Post-it notes on my mirror in my bathroom to remind me what it took to get ready for the day. I mean, it was very, very extreme. And she told me that, we're going to do this antibiotic treatment, and it'll take 1 to 2 years to get you in remission. You will start to feel worse before you feel better. And I was like, anything's got to be better than this. Well, then, I started mess with my depth perception. I would be pulling up to a red light thinking that I was, where I needed to be, and I wouldn't be. I'd park my vehicle and think that I was all the way up to the line, and I wouldn't. And just the amount of anxiety, I was having a hard time, like, following conversations. This conversation would have never happened.
Right.
I couldn't find the words that I was trying to speak, and that's it's giving me a lot of anxiety now. Like, this conversation, I was kind of hesitant on doing this for that reason, but it's just so very important to get some knowledge out there.
Well, let me stop you. We're about to go to another break, and I want, please, if you don't mind, hang on. And I'm getting chills because it's so eerie. We just had another guy named Buddy Money, and it sounds so similar. He said basically it turned his life upside down, and it sounds like it did the same thing to you. And I can't thank you enough for sharing this, so our listeners and viewers know how serious this is and how you need to keep after it. If you're feeling this way, ask somebody to test you for Lyme disease. We're going to have Ashley Havens still on, sharing her story, educating us on Lyme disease. Y'all don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of Listen to the Eagle.
Legendary entertainer Paul Ott brings you his greatest hits. Get them all in this special CD-DVD combo set, including Old Blue,
Many and a many of an early morn.
I Am Mississippi,
I am everything good you have ever dreamed about.
Right Arm of America, and many more. To order, visit listentotheeagle.com or send $20 check or money order to Paul Ott's Greatest Hits, Box 219, Summit, Mississippi 39666.
Welcome Welcome back in. Listen to the Eagle. Bert Ott Carruth, your host, right here in Reed's Metal Studio, alongside Paul Ott down in the beautiful Scenic Rivers region at beautiful Lake Dixie Springs. We've been visiting and focusing on Lyme disease because we want to try to educate you not only on the stories that you've heard from Buddy Money and Ashley Havens about how it turned their life upside down because they didn't detect it early enough, but also to focus on how serious this is and also give you some education and even some tips and some tests, hopefully, that Ashley has learned over the last year or so that can educate you. So, Ashley, again, I want to come back to you and thank you again for being a part of the show and sharing your story. But
yes,
now that
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that you've shared with us, golly, just how this devastating disease turned your life upside down, kind of now tell us the uptick, hopefully, of where you are now and how you got there and maybe even some education for our listeners.
Sure. Well, actually, I was fortunate enough that I was coming close to my 2-year mark on the antibiotics. And while I was able to walk and talk, read and write, I was still not at the best, and I knew that. And my doctor actually, the Lyme literate doctor, actually had Lyme herself, and her caseload got so overwhelmed, she ended up having a flare out, and I ended up having to go to a doctor here in Mississippi that another friend referred me to. And he was saying basically we can continue on the antibiotics, or there's this clinic out west, and they treat kind of like a immune therapy. It's kind of like if you were to restart your car battery, they kind of do that to your immune system. And I sold everything that I owned and went out there, and it's all natural. I can't tell you everything that they do because it's just so in depth. But a couple of tips that you need to definitely take note of is if you go to a doctor and they tell you that there's no such thing as Lyme disease in your state, go to a different doctor because that is a lie.
Right.
If they tell you that you only need to be on antibiotics for a few weeks, that is a lie.
Okay.
You need to be on them way more. You need to be sure that they are running the IGeneX test, or at least send it to the IGeneX lab.
Okay.
I did read that IGeneX did just, I think last week, came out with, it's called IGeneX Lyme Immunoblot, and it's like 4 different tests that test certain strands because there's so many different strands of Lyme. I think that's why a lot of people get a lot of false negatives because A, they're not testing for the right strand. B, a lot of times the test that you have, it's not picking up on the antibodies because your body hasn't had long enough to produce the antibodies to fight the Lyme disease,
right, especially
with people that have the bullseye rash. And if you have the bullseye rash, you're considered lucky. Also, another test is DNA connections.
Okay.
And then I did speak to a game warden. I ran into him this summer, and he's like, "What are you doing? Where are you going where you need to buy off?" So I'm going fishing. And, I said, it only takes one tick to run it off for you. So and he said, well, let me tell you a little secret. He said, obviously we're in and out of the woods a lot. He said, one thing that I do every time I get out of the woods is I'll get Lice shampoo. And I'll lather the Lice shampoo from head to toe and leave it on for about 4 or 5 minutes. What this does is if you have any of those ticks in your hair that you can't see, whether it be you, your child, whoever it is, this will help release the tick and it'll die and fall out, in the shower. It'll make it release. So I thought that was a huge tip.
Yeah, and that came from a game warden.
Exactly.
Wow. Ashley, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for the education. And I'm so glad you're feeling better, and we pray for you, and we'll follow your journey.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Bert.
Thank you so much. Let's go now. Let's stay with the phone lines, and let's go to Robert in Brandon, who has a comment about Ashley's story. Hey, Robert, welcome. Listen to the Eagle.
Hey, thank you. This is Rob McMurray. I'm a rheumatologist in Mississippi.
Okay.
Do you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm not going to dispute what some of your patients have said, or not your patients, but the patients on the radio have said. But there's 2 clear tests that can be done for Lyme disease. You do a screening test, and then you do what's called a Western blot. So a lot of people have the screening test that's positive for Lyme disease, but on the follow-up test, it can have certain banding patterns that are specific for Lyme or not specific for Lyme. Now, I am aware, because Lyme disease has been described for 15 to 20 years, but there are a lot of scams out there, too, that want to treat patients for 2 to 3 years with antibiotics just to take the money, and there's no evidence that that sort of treatment is actually effective against Lyme disease when you've been treated for a month for Lyme disease.
Right.
So a lot of patients have post-Lyme fatigue or post-Lyme fibromyalgia, but the Lyme bacteria is actually not active any longer once you've been treated for a month with tetracycline. So people need to be careful about that. If you look at the CDC, the Center for Disease Control maps, Lyme disease is still extremely rare in Mississippi. Now, I do screen occasional patients for it,
Right.
but it comes in 3 stages. The first is the bullseye rash, like one of your patients described on the air. And then the second is a single joint that is usually involved, like a knee. So it's very rare to have multiple joints involved.
Right.
And then the third aspect is neurologic. It can have Bell's palsy or other things, but once again, 1 month of penicillin IV or long-term tetracycline antibiotics typically resolve those symptoms if you do have Lyme disease. So I thought, other listeners needed to be aware that just because they have these symptoms, there are a lot of other things that can cause those symptoms that are probably not Lyme related.
Robert, thank you so much. We're up against a hard break. Thank you for that information, and thank you for listening. Y'all don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Listen to the Eagle.
Paul Ott's The Day of the Lord CD DVD combo set is our free gift to you and your family. The Day of the Lord includes songs like I Am That I Am, Don't Cry for Me, and They Could Not Stop His Love, as well as special sermons by Tom Lester, Dr. Larry LeBlanc, and others. Paul's special holy visits and the printed Don't Cry for Me poster are also included. Get yours by calling 1-800-684-9486 or by letter to New Day of the Lord Ministries Foundation, Box 219, Summit, Mississippi 39666.
Welcome back. It's the last segment of Listen to the Eagle. Thank you for making us a part of your day. Bert Ott Carruth here live in the Reed's Metal Studio in Jackson, Mississippi at the beautiful Farm Bureau building, alongside Paul Ott down at Lake Dixie Springs in the Scenic Rivers region. Paul Ott, let's go to the phone line talking about this disease and being that it's caused from ticks. Let's go to Barbara in Florence. Hey, Barbara, welcome to Listen to the Eagle.
Hey, I appreciate you letting me speak. I hope this will help somebody out there.
Yeah.
I think it was a God moment that it was caught just then. Real quick, I just wanted to share, I was not knowledgeable about Lyme disease or ticks or anything. But in 2014, I was very active. I was in my late 50s then and was walking 3 miles with ride 4-wheelers, go here, there, and yonder. And in the August of 2014, all of a sudden I was bedridden, and 2013, yeah. And I couldn't eat. I couldn't do anything, drink. And I got weaker and weaker. After 6 weeks, I was hospitalized because the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong. I had every test imaginable from my head to my toes, and had even the Lyme disease test done and all other tests, and they all came back negative. And so it ran its course for about 3 months, and I got stronger. And then I felt like I was getting back to my old self. But what happened was in 2016, I had some deaths to occur in the family and other stressors. And so this year in January, I had an episode of Bell's palsy. The doctor asked me there, do you know would you know if you have Lyme? Well, I totally researched it on my own, and I have a rash across my stomach, but my tests have come back all negative for Lyme. But I have all the symptoms. I had the brain fog where I couldn't think clearly. I had the severe fatigue where I couldn't get out of the bed or stand or do anything.
Wow.
I have Bell palsy again from another stress that brought it back on. And another symptom is insomnia. You have a very hard time sleeping. And so I just wanted for people out there to know that even though their tests come back negative, that does not mean you do not have it.
Well, Barbara, thank you for sharing. We'll keep you in your prayers as you keep fighting and defeating this. Thank you so much. I want to thank Buddy Money. I want to thank Ashley Havens for their in-depth sharing their story. I hope it helped you. I hope it educates you. At least gets your attention to Google this disease, because it will pick you up and slam you down. Thank you to Barbara. Thank you also to Robert, the neurologist that called in and gave us information. I just truly hope that tonight's show at least helps you dig in and find some more information, so this will help you prevent anybody in your family from dealing with this. Paul Ott, I love you.
Love you too. That's what this show is about, Bud. You're doing a great job.
That's right. See all of y'all next week for more of Listen to the Eagle.